Let me ask you something. Why do the women who were once your everything walk away as if you meant nothing? Why do they leave the men who would give them the world, who would cross oceans and climb mountains just to see them smile? Let me ask you something. Why is it that the people we love the most are often the ones who walk away? Why do the women who once looked at you like you were their whole world suddenly pack up and leave as if everything you shared meant nothing? You were there. You showed up. You cared. You gave her your time, your heart, maybe even your soul, and still she left. It doesn't make sense, does it? You replay every conversation, every argument, every silent night lying next to each other in bed, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Was it something you said, something you did, or worse, something you didn't do? Here's the truth, and it's going to sting. She didn't leave because she stopped caring. No, it's the exact opposite. She left because she cared too much. She left because the love she once felt turned into a weight she could no longer carry. And the cruel irony, that weight wasn't just from her own emotions, it was from yours too. You see, when you care deeply about someone, you give them a piece of yourself. You give them your heart, your dreams, your fears, your everything. But sometimes that can be too much. Sometimes in the process of giving all of yourself, you leave no room for them to just be themselves. And that's when love starts feeling like a cage. You thought you were doing everything right. You thought being present, being available, and being supportive were the keys to a happy relationship. And yes, they are, to a point. But there's a fine line between loving someone and losing yourself in them. When your entire world revolves around making her happy, you put a pressure on her that she never asked for. A pressure to be perfect, to never falter, to never fail. And that is a burden no one can carry forever. So she didn't leave because you didn't care. She left because she could no longer breathe under the weight of your expectations. She left because she was suffocating under the pressure of being your everything when all she ever wanted was to be herself. So the question is, can you learn to love without losing yourself? Can you learn to care without controlling? Because if you can, then maybe, just maybe, she'll find her way back. Not because she needs you, but because she wants you. And that kind of love, that's the love that lasts. We've all heard it before. People say that women leave because they fall out of love, because they get bored, or because they find someone else. But that's just the surface. It's the easy answer, the one that lets us sleep at night without questioning ourselves too deeply. The truth, however, is far more complicated and far more painful. She didn't leave because she stopped caring. In fact, she might have left because she cared too much. She cared so deeply that staying started to hurt more than leaving. She cared so much that she lost herself trying to be everything you needed her to be. You see, love doesn't die easily. It doesn't just vanish overnight. It fades slowly, day by day. When emotional needs go unmet, when words go unspoken, and when feelings go unacknowledged, it's not the grand betrayals that end relationships. It's the quiet erosion of connection. She smiled through the little disappointments, telling herself they didn't matter. She convinced herself that she was asking for too much when she craved more of your time, your attention, your understanding. She tried to be strong, to be patient, to be enough. But the truth is, she felt alone. Alone in her thoughts, alone in her worries, and alone in a relationship that was supposed to make her feel safe and cherished. You never meant to hurt her. You showed up, you did your best, you cared in the only way you knew how. But sometimes care isn't about grand gestures or fixing problems. Sometimes it's about being present, not just physically, but emotionally. It's about seeing the cracks before they shatter, hearing the words behind the silence, and feeling the pain that she hides behind her smile. She didn't leave because she stopped loving you. She left because she didn't feel loved in the way she needed. And that's the hardest truth to face. You gave her everything you had, but it wasn't what she was looking for. She needed emotional intimacy, not just physical presence. She needed to be understood, not just heard. So no, she didn't leave because she didn't care. She left because she felt invisible. Because her silent struggles went unnoticed, her quiet tears went unseen, and her unspoken needs went unmet. And over time, that kind of loneliness becomes unbearable. But here's the thing. If you can learn to see her, truly see her, maybe it's not too late. Maybe you can learn to listen, not just to her words, but to her heart. Maybe you can learn to understand her fears, her dreams, her pain before she walks away for good. The question is, are you willing to face this truth? Are you willing to learn a new way to love? Because if you are, then you have a chance to rewrite the story before it ends. She sat beside you, smiling, laughing, playing the part perfectly. Everything seemed fine, but did you notice the way her smile faded just a little too quickly? Did you catch the way her eyes dimmed when she thought you weren't looking? Probably not, because she didn't say a word. She didn't tell you that she felt lonely, even with you right there. She didn't tell you that her heart was growing heavy, weighed down by needs she was too afraid to voice. She didn't tell you that she was slowly drifting away one silent night at a time. You see, the loud arguments aren't what break a relationship. It's the quiet moments, the ones filled with words left unsaid. It's the distance that grows not because of fights, but because of silence. She never told you that she felt like she was losing you long before she even thought of leaving. She didn't complain when you were busy because she didn't want to be a burden. She didn't tell you that she was scared that she was asking for too much, scared that she was too needy, too emotional, too complicated. So she kept it all inside. And with every word she swallowed, she felt a little more alone. With every smile she faked, she felt a little more invisible. With every tear she hid, she built another wall around her heart. She didn't mean to shut you out. She was just trying to protect herself from the hurt of being misunderstood. You didn't notice, did you? You didn't notice because she was good at pretending. She convinced you and herself that everything was fine. She told herself that she was strong, that she didn't need more than what you were giving her. But the truth is, she was breaking inside. By the time you realized it, she was already halfway out the door. It's not that you didn't care. You did. You showed it in the ways you knew how, by providing, by protecting, by being there. But presence isn't the same as connection. And care isn't just about doing things, it's about feeling things. She needed you to see beyond her smile, to hear the words she couldn't say, to feel the pain she was too proud to show. She needed you to ask her how she was really feeling, and then listen without trying to fix it. She needed you to hold her, not just physically, but emotionally, but you didn't know. You didn't know because she never told you. And she never told you because she was afraid that you wouldn't understand, afraid that you think she was overreacting, afraid that she'd push you away. So she kept quiet. And in that silence, the distance grew. Until one day she woke up and realized she was already gone. Gone from the relationship, gone from the love, gone from the life you built together. It didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly, silently, in the quiet moments when she needed you the most, and you didn't even know. But here's the thing. If you learn to listen to the silence, to see the invisible, to feel the unspoken, you can bridge that distance before it becomes too wide to cross. You can break down those walls before they become impenetrable. You can save the love before it fades into nothingness. The question is, are you willing to listen, not just to her words, but to her heart? Because if you are, then there's still hope. Hope to reconnect, to rebuild, to love her the way she needs to be loved. Before it's too late. You thought you were doing everything right. You showed up, you stayed loyal, you made sure she was safe, comfortable, and never in need. You cared deeply, maybe even more than she realized. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. Sometimes caring isn't enough. Sometimes caring can even push someone away. Because there's a difference between caring and understanding. You can care about someone's happiness, but do you truly understand what makes them happy? You can care about their pain, but do you understand where that pain comes from? You see, love isn't just about being there. It's about being present in a way that resonates with the other person. It's about understanding their heart, their mind, their fears, and their dreams, and sometimes the way you show love isn't the way they need to receive it. Maybe you thought buying her gifts would make her feel cherished, but what she really needed was your time and attention. Maybe you tried to solve her problems, thinking you were being supportive, but what she needed was for you to just listen and let her figure it out on her own. You showed love in the way you understood it, but did you ever stop to learn the way she needed it? Did you notice how her face would fall just a little when you tried to fix things instead of just hearing her out? Did you catch how her laughter didn't quite reach her eyes when you joked about her worries trying to lighten the mood? Did you see the way she looked away when you brushed off her feelings as overreactions? You thought you were protecting her, saving her from pain, guiding her through life's storms. but maybe she needed to feel the rain on her face. Maybe she needed to stumble and fall to learn and grow, to stand on her own 2 feet. By caring too much, you took away her struggle, and with it, you took away her strength. You saw her as fragile, as someone who needed to be shielded, but in doing so, you made her feel small. You didn't see the warrior inside her, the woman who could fight her own battles and conquer her own fears. She needed you to stand beside her, not in front of her. She needed you to be her partner, not her protector. She needed you to trust her, to believe in her ability to handle life, even when it got messy, even when it hurt. But your love was so fierce, so consuming, that it became overwhelming. What you saw as care, she began to see as control. What you saw as protection, she felt as confinement. What you thought was love, she started to feel as limitation. You didn't mean to clip her wings. You just wanted to keep her safe. But in doing so, you trapped her in a cage made of good intentions. And no matter how comfortable that cage is, it's still a cage. She needed space to breathe, to grow, to make mistakes, to learn who she was outside of who you wanted her to be. But your care wrapped around her so tightly that she began to lose herself. And the only way to find herself again was to walk away. It wasn't because she didn't appreciate your love. It was because she needed to rediscover her own strength, her own identity, her own path. She needed to stand on her own, to be her own hero. If you truly love her, then let her be free. Let her fly, even if it means she flies away from you. Because real love isn't about holding on, it's about letting go. It's about trusting that even if she leaves, she might one day choose to come back. Not because she needs you, but because she wants you. Are you willing to love her that way? Are you willing to let go of your need to protect, to fix, to save? Because if you are, then you'll learn the most important lesson of all. True love isn't about caring too much. It's about understanding just enough. In every relationship, there's a balance, a delicate dance between giving and receiving, between holding on and letting go. But when that balance tips too far to one side, things start to fall apart. You loved her deeply. You gave her your heart, your time, your energy. You made her a priority, maybe even the center of your world. You were always there, ready to support, to listen, to help. But in doing so, did you ever stop to think about what she was giving in return? You see, love isn't just about giving. It's about exchanging, sharing pieces of ourselves in a way that feels equal, fair, and balanced. But when one person gives too much and the other feels pressured to receive, the relationship becomes unsteady. Maybe you thought that by giving more, you were showing how much you cared. You wanted to prove your love, to make her feel valued, cherished, and secure. But in that relentless giving, you unknowingly created an unspoken debt, a debt she felt obligated to repay, even if she never asked for what you gave. She didn't want to hurt you. She didn't want to seem ungrateful or unappreciative, so she tried to reciprocate, to match your level of investment, your energy, your commitment. But the truth is, it exhausted her. It drained her because she couldn't keep up with the pace you set, the standard you created. She began to feel guilty for not being able to love as fiercely, to care as deeply as you did. She felt like she was constantly falling short, like she was never enough. And that guilt slowly turned into resentment, not because of what you did, but because of how it made her feel about herself. She felt trapped between gratitude and obligation, between love and duty. She wanted to make you happy, but she also wanted to be happy herself. And that's where the unspoken tension grew. She started to question her own feelings, wondering if she was staying out of love or out of guilt. The imbalance wasn't just about who gave more. It was about the emotional weight that came with it. You gave without expecting anything in return, but deep down you hoped for her love, her affection, her gratitude. And when she couldn't give that back in the way you needed, you felt hurt, disappointed, maybe even unappreciated. She saw that hurt and it broke her heart. She saw how much you were willing to sacrifice, how much you were ready to do just to see her smile. And that made it even harder for her to walk away. Because how do you leave someone who loves you that much? How do you leave someone who cares more about your happiness than their own? But that's exactly why she left, because she realized that no matter how much she tried, she couldn't give you what you deserve. She couldn't match your love, your devotion, your care. And staying felt like a lie, like she was taking advantage of your heart She left not because you didn't love her, but because she loved you enough to set you free. Free from the one-sided dynamic, from the expectations she couldn't fulfill, from the guilt that weighed on her every single day. You see, love isn't supposed to feel like a debt. It's not meant to feel like an obligation. It's meant to flow freely, to be given and received in harmony. But when the scales are tipped too far to one side, it becomes a burden, one that neither of you deserve to carry. If you truly want to love her, then learn to find that balance. Learn to give without losing yourself. Learn to receive without feeling weak. Learn to meet her halfway, not because she owes you anything, but because love should be a dance, not a debt. Maybe then, if the balance is restored, she'll find her way back, not out of guilt or obligation, but out of genuine love. And that's the kind of love that lasts. She looked at you, searching for something, some sign that you understood her, that you truly saw her. Not just the version she showed to the world, but the woman behind the smiles, behind the brave face, behind the silence. She needed you to look deeper, to see the fears she hid, the dreams she was too scared to speak out loud, the pain she carried in silence. But you didn't see it, did you? You saw what she wanted you to see. The strong, independent, confident woman who seemed like she had it all together. You saw the laughter, the beauty, the charm, but you missed the vulnerability behind her eyes, the exhaustion in her voice, the way she held herself just a little too tightly, as if she was trying to keep from falling apart. She didn't need you to fix her problems or protect her from the world. She needed you to sit with her in her darkness, to hold her hand when she felt lost, to remind her that it was okay to not be okay. She needed you to see her scars, not as flaws, but as proof of her strength. She needed you to accept her not just when she was strong, but also when she was weak, scared, and unsure of herself. But you couldn't see past the image she projected, because that's what you fell in love with. You fell in love with her strength, her independence, her confidence. And she was terrified that if you saw the cracks, the insecurities, the fears, you'd love her a little less. So she kept pretending. She smiled when she wanted to cry. She laughed when she felt hollow inside. She stayed strong even when she was breaking. And with every mask she wore, she felt more and more alone. Because no matter how much you loved her, she felt like you were loving a version of her that wasn't real. She needed you to see her, all of her. Not just the parts that were easy to love, but also the messy, complicated, imperfect parts. She needed you to look beyond the surface, to listen between the words, to feel the pain she couldn't speak out loud. She needed you to understand her, not just through your eyes, but through her heart. But you didn't. Not because you didn't care, but because you didn't know how. You loved her the way you understood love, but you never asked her how she needed to be loved. You never asked her what she was afraid of, what kept her up at night, what made her feel small and insignificant. You never asked her about the battle she fought within herself every single day. You thought she was strong enough to handle anything, and she was. But that strength came at a cost. It came from years of hiding her pain, of pretending to be okay, of carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders because she didn't want to be a burden. It came from never letting herself fall apart, even when she was shattering inside. She didn't need you to save her. She needs you to stand beside her, to hold her when she was too tired to be strong, to see her vulnerability not as weakness but as courage. She needed you to love her for who she truly was, not just for who you wanted her to be. But she never asked for that. She never told you how lonely she felt, even when she was lying next to you. She never told you how heavy her heart was, even when she smiled and said everything was fine. She never told you how much she was hurting because she didn't want to disappoint you, didn't want to ruin the perfect image you had of her. So she stayed silent. And in that silence, the distance grew. You loved her, but you didn't really know her, and she couldn't live with that anymore. She couldn't keep pretending to be someone she wasn't just to make you happy. She didn't leave because she stopped loving you. She left because she needed to find herself again. She needed to be seen, to be understood, to be loved for who she truly was, flaws and all. She needed to stop pretending, to take off the mask, to finally breathe. If you truly want to love her, then learn to see beyond the surface. Learn to ask the questions she's too scared to answer. Learn to listen to the words she doesn't say. Learn to love her in the darkness, not just in the light. Because real love isn't about perfection. It's about seeing the cracks and loving even more because of them. It's about understanding that the strongest people are often the ones who are breaking inside. And it's about standing by them even when they're too afraid to ask for help. Can you do that? Can you love her, not just for who she is, but for who she's afraid to be? Because if you can, then maybe she won't have to walk away. Maybe she'll find the courage to stay, not because she's strong enough to pretend, but because she feels safe enough to be real. She looked at you, hoping you'd see the fire in her soul, the dreams that danced behind her eyes, the passions that made her feel alive. She wanted you to see her not just as your partner, but as her own person, someone with hopes, ambitions, and desires that went beyond the role she played in your life. She wanted to share her dreams with you, to let you into her world, to show you the things that made her heart race and her spirit soar. But every time she tried, she felt that familiar resistance. Not because you didn't care, but because you didn't truly understand. You saw her as your girlfriend, your wife, your lover. You saw her as the woman who made your life easier, who stood by your side, who supported your goals and celebrated your successes. But did you ever ask about hers? Did you ever ask what she wanted from life, who she wanted to become, what legacy she wanted to leave behind? She didn't need you to pave the way for her. She didn't need you to solve her problems or clear the obstacles from her path. She needed you to believe in her, to cheer her on, to remind her that her dreams were just as important as yours. But too often, her passions were pushed to the side, her ambitions were seen as secondary, as if her purpose in life was to support yours, and the more she tried to fit into the box you unknowingly built around her, the smaller she felt. She wanted to grow, to explore, to reach for the stars, but she felt trapped by expectations, by traditions, by the silent rules that told her who she should be as a partner, as a woman, as a person. She felt like she had to choose between being the woman you loved and being the woman she dreamed of becoming. And slowly she started to resent the very love she once cherished. Not because you didn't support her, but because you didn't see her. Not fully, not beyond the role she played. You thought you were giving her everything. You gave her stability, comfort, affection. But did you give her freedom? Did you give her the space to grow beyond who she was when you first met? Did you give her the encouragement to chase her dreams, even if it meant she'd have to fly away from you for a while? She needed you to stand beside her, not in front of her. She needed you to walk with her, not lead the way. She needed you to be her partner, not her guide. She needed you to see her as an equal, not as someone who was there to complete your life. She wanted to share her victories with you, not because they were yours to celebrate, but because you were the person she loved. She wanted to face her failures with you, not because she needed rescuing, but because she trusted you to hold her when she felt weak. But when she looked at you, she saw the doubt in your eyes. The doubt that said, "Are you sure you can do this? Are you sure this is what you want?" She heard the words that were never spoken but echoed in your actions, in your hesitation, in your subtle attempts to steer her back to the safety of familiarity. You didn't mean to hold her back. You were trying to protect her, to save her from disappointment, from failure, from pain. But in doing so, you were saving her from herself. You were dimming her light, clipping her wings, locking her dreams behind closed doors. She needed you to believe in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. She needed you to trust that she could figure things out, even when the path was unclear. She needed you to support her, even when you didn't fully understand her vision. But she grew tired of fighting, not just for her dreams, but for the right to have them. She grew tired of justifying her ambitions, of feeling guilty for wanting more, of pretending to be content when she was burning inside. So she made the hardest choice of all. She chose herself. She chose her dreams, her growth, her journey. She chose to walk away, not because she stopped loving you, but because she started loving herself enough to follow her own path. She left because she realized that staying meant shrinking, that loving you meant losing herself. She left because she couldn't keep dimming her light just to make you feel comfortable. It wasn't about you not being enough. It was about her needing more than you were ready to give, more than you could understand, more than she could find while staying by your side. If you truly loved her, then let her fly. Let her soar, let her fall, let her learn, let her grow. Let her become everything she was meant to be, even if it means she becomes someone you no longer recognize. Because real love isn't about holding someone back. It's about setting them free. It's about celebrating their victories, even when they don't involve you. It's about letting them chase their dreams, even when it means they might leave you behind. Are you strong enough to love her like that? Because if you are, then maybe, just maybe, she'll find her way back, not as the woman you once knew, but as the woman she was always meant to be.